The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect those of the ANA or its members. On today's episode of On Scope, Rethink COO Caleb Goodman explains why vulnerability might be the secret behind truly great ad creative. And on marketing news you might have missed, AI supermodels. Why? All that next on Scope. Hey, hi, hello, we are back. This is On Scope, the marketing podcast brought to you by the ANA and powered by Odyssey, a leading audio streaming platform. You can get your favorite podcast, you can get your favorite music, you can get your favorite entertainment on the Odyssey app. I am your host, Mike Berberich, and with me as always, Ryan Dinger, the producer of On Scope. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing pretty well, Mike. Welcome back.
Good to be back. Good to be back.
A little week off from the show. A little time to decompress.
Little inhale, little exhale. Never hurts every once in a while, you know?
That's right. We're ready for the stretch run now.
Yes, indeed. Oh, my goodness. 2025, you don't even know it's coming. Get excited. Get ready.
That's right.
And you know what? I'm feeling the momentum. Do you want to just jump into marketing news that we might have missed?
Yes, I would love to talk about some marketing news our listeners might have missed. Mike, we've got a doozy this week. I feel like you're going to have some takes. Here's the headline from the BBC. Does this look like a real woman? AI model in Vogue raises concerns about beauty standards. In August's print edition of Vogue, a guest advertisement features a flawless blonde model showing off a striped maxi dress and a floral playsuit from the brand's summer collection. In small print in one corner, the ad reveals that she was created using AI. It is the first time an AI-generated person has featured in the magazine. The advertisement has been met with controversy and raises questions about what this means for real models who have fought for greater diversity and for consumers, particularly young people, already struggling with unrealistic beauty standards. Serafine Valora is the company behind Guess's controversial advertisement. Its founders, Valentina Gonzalez and Andrea Petrescu, tell the BBC they were approached by Guess's co-founder, Paul Marciano, on Instagram and were asked to create an AI model as part of the brand's summer campaign. Quote, we created 10 draft models for him, and he selected one brunette woman and one blonde that we went ahead and developed further, Gonzalez says. The company has 5 employees who create AI models, and it can take up to a month from idea inception to completed product. The pair say they charge anywhere up to low figures for a client like Guess. I'd like to just start by saying
Low six figures,
brokered on Instagram. Business deals being brokered on Instagram now, my friend.
So first of all, stay in those DMs, my friend.
Yeah,
you never know what's coming down your way.
You never know who's sliding in.
But low six figures takes a month.
Yep.
What are we doing here, folks? What are we doing here? What is the reason? What could the reason possibly be? Like, even if you were trying to save money and saved a little time on this, I'm going to be flat out. This is gross for me. I find this gross. And what is it accomplishing at all?
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it's saving much money. And to your point, a month to turn around the from concept to, like, that's a normal timeline for an ad.
And I'm just telling you this, unless you're a celebrity, like I used to work in the casting and whatchamacallit, I had some experience in that world. Unless you have a celebrity, nobody's paying a model 6 figures for a print shoot, period. So you're spending more money on this, and I think I know where this is going, but I'm going to give it over to you in case there's anything else before my lid literally flips off.
Well, you said you find it gross. You're not the only one, Mike. Felicity Howard, a plus-size model who has been in the industry for more than a decade, says using AI models in fashion campaigns, quote, feels lazy and cheap. She said, either Guess is doing this to create a talking point and get free publicity, or they want to cut costs and don't think about the implications of that. She describes Vogue's decision to include the advertisement as, quote, very disheartening and quite scary, and worries it could undermine years of work toward more diversity in the industry. So a couple things here. One, the ANA itself and our partners have been working to diversify media, generally speaking, but in beauty standards. Dove's campaign.
Oh my God! Yeah.
I believe it's called the Real Beauty campaign comes to mind. We've given that campaign awards. We've worked with people who worked on that campaign.
They've earned it.
She says they're trying to get free publicity, or they want to cut costs. It doesn't seem like they really cut costs. I wonder about sort of what happened recently with the American Eagle ad and Sydney Sweeney, and how there's this speculation that, and I don't know that I necessarily believe this, but this is what some people believe, that they did this in order to create a controversy to get the publicity. And is Guess doing the same thing here with this advertisement? I don't know.
It's not impossible. That might sound a little bit cynical, but look around you. There's reason to be a little bit cynical, a little bit skeptical right now. I have a question, though.
Sure.
What are you building with that? With these tactics,
right?
What are you building?
Yeah, like, is the short-term gain on publicity really worth it when you see there is a clear pushback against AI-generated content in advertising? We all saw what happened with Coca-Cola. That was a misstep.
Yep.
They did the holiday campaign all with AI this year. The way it rolled out, they seemed to think people were going to love it and be very impressed. That was not the reaction at all. And that doesn't seem to be the reaction here, as this ad is also creating controversy for being generated by AI. People are not comfortable with this. So even if there is a short-term publicity boost, what is it doing to your long-term brand equity?
Yeah. And first of all, if you go behind the scenes of that holiday ad, it was a tiny bit AI, and then humans had to go in and clean its mess up. Just frankly. So it wasn't even an AI ad.
Right.
So it was a pure publicity stunt. This feels like a publicity stunt. I don't know what the goal is in the long term. Congratulations, we're talking about you. You've done it. Congratulations.
Yeah.
This is putting your 30-second television ad on Facebook again. This is just, what is the point of this? It's not fitting into the context. Nobody's asking for this. And in this case, it's human. They're human. They're not like, this isn't solving a problem.
Yeah.
So what exactly are you doing?
It's potentially creating a problem with the whole issue of the beauty standards and sort of regressing back to where we were. Not really regressing in terms of how we approach beauty standards, but actually progressing in that now we don't even have the standards are so unrealistic that we don't even have real people serving as models. Well, Gonzalez and I keep butchering this poor woman's name.
Petrescu, I think.
Petrescu. I'm sorry, I do keep butchering your name. That is not the point. No. But Gonzalez and Petrescu are adamant they don't reinforce narrow beauty standards. Quote, "We don't create unattainable looks. Actually, the AI model for Guess looks quite realistic," Petrescu says. "Ultimately, all advertisements are created to look perfect and usually have supermodels in them. So what we are doing is no different." Well, that's an interesting perspective. The pair admit the AI images on their company's Instagram page are lacking in diversity and promote unrealistic beauty standards. They say they have tried to be more inclusive, but it's the users who don't engage much with those posts.
So, therefore, the entire purpose of your company is Instagram likes?
That seems to be what they're...
That's the entire reason you created this company. That is the life journey of these two individuals, is to get the most Instagram likes.
It seems to me that Serafine Valora could use a better PR team.
Seems to me they could use a human being on board. Like, this isn't, oh my goodness. Oh, we don't do this. We don't represent everybody because we don't get the likes for it. And you're like, yep, looks good, sounds good, send it out. Yeah. Like, that wasn't picked up in a backroom conversation. You were looking at a journalist or sending them that message when this happened.
Yeah.
That's utterly ridiculous.
Is on the record. This is on the record. They're saying this stuff.
Purposes for Instagram likes. Great. Good luck.
Yeah. So a lot of pushback on the AI stuff. Maybe something to think about for all the brand marketers out there. I think you and I agree. There are a lot of useful cases where AI can be applied, but synthetic media, representation of human beings, it feels a little icky.
Yeah. Let me quote a good pal of mine Alan Schulman, who works at Upper Right. He is way into all of the AI. He's a brilliant mind. He said simply, you don't have to hit publish, right? Go ahead and experiment.
Yes.
Find out what it can do.
Yeah, sure.
You don't have to put this out into the world.
Yeah.
So that's it. I think if I say any more, I might be on Indeed next week. So I'm gonna leave it there. I'm gonna leave it there.
Oh man. Well, speaking of client agency relations, we got a little something more on that this week, don't we, my friend?
You know what? As a wild coincidence, we do. Over the past 14 years, our guest today, global COO and partner of Rethink, Caleb Goodman, has helped lead and grow the agency to 400 rethinkers across 4 offices, working with global brands like Kraft-Heinz, IKEA, Molson Coors, and Uber.
Some of those campaigns award-winning, by the way.
Absolutely. This is the 2024 Cannes Lions Independent Agency of the Year.
How about that?
We're talking about.
That's pretty impressive.
That's pretty impressive. So his approach is rooted in making authentic connections with people, leading with empathy, and setting the conditions for teams to fulfill their ambitions. Now that can get into the general and but my goodness, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to hear how it's really done on the ground, step by step today. Because he joins us to break down the secret sauce behind truly great agency-client relationships. My conversation with Caleb is up next. Listeners, we have a very important topic to talk about today. And yeah, I'm talking directly to you. If you think I'm not, I'm talking directly to you. This is about the brand agency relationship, but we're gonna flip the conversation on its head a little bit here. And I think I have the perfect guest to do exactly that. Everybody help me welcome to the pod, Caleb Goodman, the global COO and partner at Rethink, the 2024 Cannes Lion Independent Agency of the Year. Caleb, thanks for stopping by the pod. It's great to have you.
Thanks, Mike. My pleasure. Thrilled to be here.
So when I said we have an important conversation, I meant it. There's a lot of talk, and there has been a lot of talk about the brand agency relationship, what can be improved, and at least from my vantage point, the conversation's almost always about like what agencies can do and how they can do this or how they can do that. But a good relationship is a two-way street necessarily. Mm-hmm. So I don't think that it's a stretch for me to say that there's no shortage of amazing talent in this industry. I've had the privilege of getting to speak to a lot of that amazing talent. So it begs the question, why isn't there more amazing work?
Right? It's an amazing question because, I'm really proud to be in this industry. We do lots of great work, but regular people don't like advertising.
Yeah.
Even as a consumer, when I'm going about my life, I don't like advertising. Mm-hmm. And why is that? Because most of it is really terrible.
Yes.
Like 99.9% of it is really terrible.
Preach.
Now we can get into our own world or just coming back from the Cannes Lion Festival and we see the best of the best and that's amazing. But as Juan reminds the audience every night, there's 33,000 entries and only 3% are shortlisted and only, the numbers, it gets really small. So there's not actually that much great work. Now, The interesting thing is when advertising or any type of marketing communications in the world are great, people do talk about it, right? It does get covered on late night. It becomes content.
Yeah.
And, we talk about it at Rethink as the cocktail party test. We're always trying to pass the cocktail party test of like, what's something that people would talk about at a cocktail party? Or like, did you see that thing? Did share this, that type of thing? But I guess back to your assertion, like, yeah, there's tons of great talent, not enough good work. And so you're right. We spend so much time working on strategic models and strategic thinking, which is vital and it's critical.
Of course.
And we spend tons of time on creativity and fostering that and setting the conditions. Arguably, I'd say we don't always set the right conditions for that. What we don't spend enough time on is the actual relationship. We think that two parties or multiple parties are going to rock up together and then all of a sudden create magic. Mm-hmm. And it just doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
And I think there's kind of lip service and really kind of the first level of attention paid to it. A lot of just pleasantries and motherhood statements of let's work on the relationship and let's get a beer. And that's great. But I would assert that's not enough. And at Rethink, so much of our success comes from, I'll stand behind the brilliance of our creativity and the brilliance of our strategy. But the third ingredient that helps bring that together is really doing some serious work on the relationship in order to set the conditions for repeatable success.
Yeah. And I think a lot of this comes from, it's very funny that we forget this, but like every other human out there is exactly like you. They have an inner world, they have baggage, they have a past, they have a lot more things going than they're going to bring to a small talk conversation.
Right.
And I think that isn't acknowledged at all. When a brand and an agency come together for the first time, it's not like they just came from the ether and are now like, oh, well, what's advertised? Like, what is that kind of element of balancing like real talk with like, there is still a client and service provider relationship there. So like, what is the mindset to get beyond that? Let's have a beer. Oh, you like this team?
Right.
Oh, I like that team, you know?
Well, it requires, like, I believe, a high degree of openness and vulnerability to create that psychological safety. Now I'm using lots of like buzzy words, but we
really,
actually don't do that.
Yeah.
I mean, so this, coming together of a client and an agency, or two individuals, let's use like real people. It's a relationship.
Yeah.
And just like dating, we go about our lives, and I'm married now, but as you're single and looking for a partner, you bring all of the baggage from your past relationships, all of the wounds, all of the heartache, the criticisms that you maybe received, and you're bringing that, unless you've processed it, and lots of people do, and they do that in their personal lives with therapy or with friends or talking it out. Sure. They bring that to the party, and so there's this always going to be in the way. Like, it would be nice to meet you, but I can't actually get close to you because there's my heartache, my upset. And as it relates to a marketer and an agency, if you're a client, I'm bringing I was misled by my agency. I was let down. I was disappointed. Whatever. The list is long. And as an agency, it's, they're never going to trust us. I hate when people start with trust. Trust is, I believe, built over time.
Yeah.
In most cases. And unless that is processed in a healthy way, beyond just let's get to know each other and what do you like to do on your weekends, that's cool, but that's that's not going to actually, that's going to get you there,
right?
Consistently. If that work isn't done, then you're just kind of left at square one. It's where most agencies are, and clients for that matter. And because the funny thing is, nobody wakes up in the morning and says, I want to make really shit work today, right? Like,
exactly, precisely. I'm going to be as mid as I can today. Like
people, I assume positive intent that everybody wants to do great work. So, this is like a thing worth talking about. So appreciate the invitation.
Yeah, no, and and like, some things are cliche because we keep talking about it, but we don't make any progress on it. Right. So why should we stop talking about it? You know what I mean? But a lot of times in these interviews, it's just very funny that like good business practice and like good like mental health kind of really dovetail into each other, and you could see a person's like journey of self-discovery and like a brand trying to clarify their purpose. A lot of that stuff dovetails in. So I'm very glad that we kind of are bringing the human element to all of this.
Great.
Now, I said at the very beginning of this conversation that we were going to kind of reverse this conversation of like what the agency do. What can the agency do? What do the agency need to do to change? From your vantage point, what is the most common thing or things clients do to sabotage their own success?
Okay, so hot question, and I'll try to answer it without offending current or prospective clients. But I was thinking about this conversation this morning, and I was at the gym, saw a trainer, and as I was walking home, I imagined this as maybe a metaphor that could get to some of this conversation. Imagine the trainer is the agency, the client is the marketer, and the client says to the trainer, hey, I've seen that you have made some world-class bodybuilders, and I would like to be one of them as well. Great. So the trainer says, let's talk about this. Here's the diet. Here's the exercise regimen that we'll follow in order to help you become the world-class bodybuilder that you'd like to be. And the client says, okay, that sounds great. However, I won't be changing my diet, and I will only be using a recumbent bike. So that is often the dynamic that we face, and I think the thing that can get in the way of success. And so if I was to put some like specific language to my metaphor, which might fall down soon.
No, I like it.
Okay, great. It's there's a lack of kind of cultural alignment on what that actually looks like. Like, what does success look like? You know, we get so many calls of like, give us the work you did for Kraft-Heinz or Molson Coors or IKEA, but there's not a real shared definition of what that looks like, what success looks like, or how to get there. So there's an organizational inertia within a marketing organization in order to deliver that. And so those are the things that are not often talked about. Like there's the sense of just do it to me.
Yeah.
Make me the bodybuilder.
Yes.
And it doesn't work that way.
Right.
And you can have the smartest strategist and the best creative, but unless there's a mechanism and some behaviors and practices and actions that are in line with that vision, it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So that's where we go to work at Rethink.
Love that. I really love that. And yeah, I've brought this up. I feel like like if this was a sandwich punch card, I'd be getting a free hoagie by now. But I've brought this quote up many, many times on the podcast that a brand is every touch point you have with a customer, period.
Yes.
And so to think that you're going to have this new disruptive messaging that's like, oh, riding the zeitgeist, and you are not going to do a thing differently behind the scenes, and that's going to make any sense when it comes out in the real world, that's kind of a fool's errand. You know what I mean? Like,
and I have a lot of empathy for this because I have a lot of these conversations. I'm currently having one with a prospective client where they're saying, hey, we want this. Like, how can you help us with this? Because there's generally a handful of advocates, the pioneers, who are saying, okay, we recognize that where we want to be is not where we are. Like, how can we do that? How can you help us internally start to steer things to a new way of working?
And I think that's where the relationship stuff starts to get
That's
good.
it.
Because it requires vulnerability. It requires getting your hands a little bit dirty. And on the other side of that, there might be some of that well-earned trust.
Right.
Like, that's the work that needs to be done to really trust, beyond lip service. Love all of that. Listeners, stick around, because when we come back, the customer's always right? Wrong. Stick around, we'll explain. So Ryan.
Yes, Michael?
How are we doing on marketing this week's episode?
Well, we haven't started marketing yet because we're recording it right now. So it's not in market.
See, I emailed the social team last week that they need to step up their game on promoting this week's episode last week.
How did they respond to that?
Question mark, but I really think that they just typoed that. I really feel like they meant exclamation point.
I think they probably don't know what to do with the episode right now. And frankly, I think you're being part of a team who's helping to not make it happen. You're kind of hurting the effort by asking for things from the future.
Well, I hope there's a part 2 to this.
There is a part 2, as it turns out, Mike. Behind every great campaign, even those that go out for on-scope episodes, is a marketer who knows what to do and a team that helps make it happen. The exact opposite of what you're doing.
That does sound better. That does sound better.
Yeah, it's great. It's great.
So where am I going to find all of this great stuff?
Where else are you going to find it? The A&A. We've always got the answer, Mike, as it turns out.
I love it.
This week, we're talking the A&A's talent and marketing organization practice. It's here to help you become the marketer who knows what to do and put together or contribute to a team that knows how to make it happen. The practice, Mike, check this out.
Give it to me.
Supports marketers at every level with hands-on training, leadership development, and the tools to transform teams into high-performing engines of growth.
Woo! Ooh, Ryan.
That sounds nice, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. It's got me inspired to leap to action.
Yeah.
You know what I want to do right now more than like anything?
What's that?
I want to explore the ANA's Talent and Marketing Organization Practice page to access resources, training, and insights that help build stronger marketers and stronger brands.
Well, the beautiful thing is you can do just that, Mike. All you got to do is visit www.ana.net/talent. That's www.ana.net/talent.
Excellent. I will need that data report on my desk by EOD.
We'll see what we can.
We are back. This is On Scope, the marketing podcast, and my guest today, Caleb Goodman, Global COO and partner at Rethink, the 2024 Cannes Lions Independent Agency of the Year. Now, someone once said, you get what you incentivize. So I want to talk about why the customer is always right is a terrible axiom for brands to internalize when it comes to the client-agency relationship. Would you agree, and why might that be?
Yes, I would agree. And I have some empathy for how lots of marketers would have gotten to that, maxim. No, it's very true when it comes to your eggs. Maybe less so with the complexity of marketing communications and what you're going to put out into the world.
Yes.
And I think, I feel badly. There's a lot of marketers, a lot of clients who have struggled with their agencies, and so they have, in that kind of metaphor of relationships, they've like developed this armor, and they've been burned before. So fool me once. So they're gonna be like, I'm right. This is how we do things. And now there is a certain there's a deference that is due to obviously the expertise and knowledge there, but it flattens the conversation, and it stifles creativity. And we were talking about this the other day with a different client. That I think every agency professional has had this experience of knowing that you're starting to develop work based on what you think the client is going to like.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a massive red flag.
Yep.
Because you're no longer actually solving the business problem. You're actually just trying to appeal to one person's taste and preferences. Now, both are possible. I think you can also appreciate that the brand steward has taste and preferences, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But so often it's about satisfying that and trying to make the customer right per the maxim. But it really doesn't serve the overall objective.
Mm-hmm.
And you get into this buying and selling transactional relationship. And that's the issue, is that agencies are just looking to sell and clients are looking to buy, and then that doesn't allow that space for a transformational way of working. Mm-hmm. And that there's no room for relationship in purely a transaction. Now, I'm not so Pollyanna that I don't understand we're in a commercial enterprise. I understand that.
Right.
But there's so much power in bringing that kind of vulnerability, openness, psychological safety to that relationship.
Yeah, and I think when you're in a leadership position, there's a responsibility to the business.
Yeah.
And, you cannot let your personal preferences or what you like or you don't like supersede that. You can integrate that. Obviously, you're in a leadership position for a reason. But I like to say, do you want what you want, or do you want to get your way?
Right.
Because that's not always the same, and it's actually kind of rarely the same thing.
Right.
So I love how you broke that down. Weirdly, in my mind, when you were saying that, of all things, Miracle on 34th Street, when real Santa tells somebody, oh, you can go across the street and get that for cheap. And, somebody was ready to fire him, and the customer was like, you just made me a customer for life. There's that kind of do you need every little short grab you can possibly get, or do you want this brand to say, well, out of everybody, I'm going to believe these people because I know that they've got my interests at heart.
Yeah. Yeah, and honestly, maybe I assume too much positive intent. There's a lot of bad work out there, and maybe some people are just wanting to kill it and bill it, or they're just actually, perhaps just not the type of work that Rethink typically does, just looking for a very mechanical, more like programmatic style transaction. And that's okay. There's a role for that.
Yeah.
That's just not the work we care to do.
Yeah, and that actually brings up something. You are obviously industry recognized for the quality of work that you do. What are some of the things what are some of the steps you take to avoid that, to avoid the system influencing the work in a way that, like, this is bad work, but that's not a bad talent. What the heck happened here? Like, a little bit of the organization or culture, or kind of the stuff that keeps this, the quality of work high.
Right. Well, geez, there's quite a few.
I know. I just asked you to boil the ocean. I apologize.
No. It's okay. I'll offer a couple. I mean, there's what I won't go into too much depth on because we're talking relationships is the practices within the strategic and creative department that yield consistently high performing work. So we do that. We practice that with so much rigor that's allowed us to be, at the top of our game for 25 years. When it comes to setting the conditions for the relationship, that's where we bring some, different tools and practices to the table, which I'm happy to share with you and your listeners. We generally publish all of the tricks of our particular trade because we would love them to be practiced by many more people, because then I think it would help to heal some of the baggage that the industry has between clients and marketers. So the foundational practice whenever we're working with a new client is the Rethink Relationship Accelerator, and it is designed to, it's kind of descriptive per the name. It's about accelerating the relationship, because you know how every new relationship works in life, whether you're meeting a neighbor or a love interest or a client, you start and everything's great. Everyone is on their best behavior.
Yep.
You're seeing only their great qualities. You're assuming all of this positive intent. You're imagining, all the things that will come. And then 100% of the time, something happens. That could be a disappointment, a missed expectation, some sort of upset, some market condition that was out of all of our control, and it causes a challenge. There's a dip. And that dip always happens. So it usually happens, a month, 2 months into a new client relationship. And the work that we do in the Relationship Accelerator is to have the conversations to develop the tools to get us out of that dip as quickly as possible so that we can get on with the work. Now, this is organizational behavior 101. This is forming, storming, norming, performing. And so this is a session that we hold to get through that. Now, what does that look like? It's honestly like a 3-hour therapy session, which scares a lot of people off. But I will say, I think we have 100% success rate of people coming out with their shoulders dropped, like a kind of a feeling lighter, feeling heard and fully self-expressed. And so it's a great session. It takes something. It's one of those, I want to be a bodybuilder. What do I need to do? It's like, okay, give us your time. Your phones are going to go away. You sit in a circle. It's a facilitated session, and we explore together. And then in sometimes smaller groups, conversations like, what are your pet peeves? What has happened in your last relationships that we should know about?
Yeah.
And we hear all manner of terrible things. And clients will say, okay, I'm going to say this once, and I'm going to talk about my ex, and then I never want to talk about it again. We're like, great, let's do it. And then we do the same. So we talk about pet peeves. We talk about idiosyncrasies. We talk about what we need in order to be the best partner. We also talk about what does success look like beyond the brief, beyond marketing objectives, because there's always so much more at play. And really understanding what's driving people is so helpful. And sometimes it's, I want to be the top performing business unit in my multinational organization, or I want to make the competition jealous, or I just want to be on late night, or I want a promotion. Like there's all manner of things that come about.
Yeah.
And these sessions they're so galvanizing, and they're galvanizing for the clients. Like they walk out saying the generally, the 5 to 10 folks who you might be working with at an agency, they come out saying, I've never had these conversations with my boss. And so it's great. So that session gets codified, and that becomes sort of the contract, if you will. It's the thing you get to go back to quarterly, and it's not like, there's lots of mutual performance review style processes, and they're fine. But this one is kind of mutually created, and then you get to say, are we doing that thing?
Yeah.
And are we on track? And hey, we said in July that we wanted to be doing this. Well, we're not on track. So what do we need to do? And then you can start to kind of tinker with those behaviors and practices to get there. So the Relationship Accelerator, foundational. Another one, and this is perhaps a little more tactical in terms of like the actual work, but it leads to new behaviors and it's trust building, which is a practice we have that we call Go Then Grow. And it speaks to the approach of getting into market with new work. So when clients come to us and they say, hey, like, we'd like to be that world-class bodybuilder, please. And however, we would also like to go through these testing modules, and this is the way we must do this, and here's the set media plan. We say, okay, well, this isn't going to work. So we'll sometimes say, okay, let's try something. And we say, let's, instead of saying, what are all of the possible things you can do, what's the one thing we must do? So it's really just kind of flipping the pyramid on its head and saying, okay, we must do, well, I guess maybe turning the pyramid upright and saying, we must do X, Y, or Z. This is the minimum viable product in order to get into market, and do that quickly. And so, like, an example with Kraft-Heinz would be the campaign we did for Seemingly Ranch. So there was this moment during the Super Bowl 3 years ago when Taylor Swift was there. There was a photograph taken of her dipping a chicken finger, and the caption on the person's Instagram post was, Taylor Swift seen eating a chicken finger with ketchup and Seemingly Ranch. And in the the weird and wonderful way of the internet, it took off as a meme. Well, lots of brands looked at it, and as did we, as a the agency for Heinz ketchup, and said, okay, there's something to do here. So what's the minimum viable product we needed to do? Well, we needed to get in market the next day with something. We didn't have to have every element complete. We didn't have to have an out-of-home campaign. We didn't have to say, okay, is this product going to get onto shelves in 6 to 8 months? Like, we just needed to get into market. So that's the go part. Yeah. And then it took off. Then it was on late night. Then it went viral, as much as we hate that word. And then we could grow it. And then we could say, oh, actually, this response with ultimately became a new product. It was a rebranded product that was ketchup and ranch. It was an underperforming product. We renamed it Seemingly Ranch, and off to the races we went. But going and getting into market and feeling success is usually that part of that training regimen, if you will, that actually has the marketing organization say, oh, there's another way of doing this. Oh, that felt different. So anything we can do to have people experience the wonders of actually trying things a different way is great. And that, I guess, back to the topic of our conversation, that's trust building. That's like, oh, that feels good. Oh, that's actually a win for the team. How do we do more of that? And that's generally been the game plan for us at Rethink. Like, we will onboard a new client, and then we're looking for our quickest win. How can we quickly together in the using the foundations that we've built through our Relationship Accelerator and other practices, get a win on the board, so that we can then say, okay, what worked well, what didn't work well, how do we repeat that, and on we go.
I love it. And one of the things that we really try to make sure every episode of On Scope has, it's practical advice. It's things that people can finish this episode and be like, all right, I've got something I need to try, or I've got something I need to talk to my boss about. And I think that you just provided a treasure trove there. So, speaking of treasure trove, I would love to, if you're comfortable sharing, I would love to know where the idea of the Relationship Accelerator came from, because to one of your very first points, I could see that immediately turning some folks off. I like to say that the people who need therapy most are the ones who are like, that's not for me. I'm just not a therapy person. I'm like, oh, would you be a different person? And like, dude.
Yeah.
So where did this idea come from? Because it's not a no risk thing,
Right.
you know, for bringing this in. And I'm sure like brands have deadlines, and I've got 3 people breathing down my neck, and you want me to sing Kumbaya with you? But so like, where did the impetus come from? And then how do you make sure that it's not 3 hours wasted, that it really becomes that North Star?
Right. Yeah, well, it started, I think it was 2016, and I'll give the shared credit with our client IKEA. So we pitched that business first in Canada, and we won that business, and the process of getting to know IKEA is consistent with who they are as an organization, extremely values-led, and one of the foundational values of IKEA globally is togetherness. A bit of a Swedish English word. So this notion of togetherness. So that was foundational in the process. And after we won it, I had I think a 5-hour lunch with the CMO where we went deep. We talked about all of the things that we needed to talk about, and agreed to have a kickoff session. And it was actually in that session where she said, I want to share a bunch of things with you all, and I want to do it one time, and we'll speak really candidly and transparently, and then we won't do that anymore, and we're going to move on productively. And that was really eye-opening for me.
Damn.
And so we had a session. It was a slightly different format, but we were so inspired by what came of that that we honed it into a process that is repeatable across all of our clients, and there are rethinkers in all 4 offices who are trained to facilitate these sessions, and we've got it down pat now. So that's where it came from. Then in terms of how we keep it alive, well, this is where really the leadership team really needs to walk the walk. And in that session, we'll codify behaviors and practices, and they'll be unique to every client, but there's certain themes that often come up, like good news fast, bad news faster. Of like, tell me the shitty news real fast, please. And so we're reminded of that, and then we, like, when something happens, you practice it, or someone will say, okay, no, you got to do that thing, or let's not have a debate in email. Okay, so like you'll smell it, it'll happen. I'm like, oh, we're getting into this thing. Okay, no, time to pick up the phone or get on a Zoom or something. So it's really incumbent upon the leadership team to continue to walk the walk across the practices that emerge. But we then also meet, every relationship. Well, maybe they don't, but like we at least are sitting down quarterly or semi-annually to sit down and say, how are we doing? And we pull that out and we say, is this still true? Are we practicing what we declared? Are there things we need to add? Are there things that are no longer relevant? So we keep it alive. And I'd say in its best case, in the case of our relationship with Scotiabank, it's one of the top banks in Canada and in South America and Central America, it is the foundation of our mutual evaluation. Like, we said all of these things, and then we actually score each other against the foundations of what we said we were going to do together in our relationship. So that's kind of how we keep it alive.
I love that. And I think, agencies and brands alike have a lot to think about from this conversation. Guys, I say this, but I mean it when I say it. This one's one to run back. Caleb, it's been an absolute pleasure having you in the studio. Thanks so much for being a guest on Scope.
My pleasure, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Well, friends, here we are again at the end of another episode of On Scope, the marketing podcast. I knew I was in store for a great conversation today, but I really have to give a big shout out to Rethink COO Caleb Goodman for thorough conversation about a vital topic. He really knocked it out of the park. And I hope all of you have something you can bring to your agency-client relationships as a result. As a reminder, if you have a topic or guest that you'd like to see on Scope, we would love to hear from you. That email, onscope@ana.net. And as always, here is your moment of marketing meditation. Take a deep breath, relax those shoulders, and consider the following from author Chris Jamie. To share your weakness is to make yourself vulnerable. To make yourself vulnerable is to show your strength. Think on that, and we'll see you next week.
This has been a presentation of ANA Studios.